Right, hello, and this is a AQA. I keep saying AQA. Might as well be, to be honest. OCR, sorry. Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. So start. Anyway, this is a video on unemployment. Now, if you're wondering what that light is shining behind me, it's not the heavens above shining down on the young bright one, as though it may seem. We're talking about unemployment. Now, the first question, I'm going to write it down, but what is unemployment? Unemployment basically is a standard, quick definition, is anyone who is currently out of work, but is able to work and is actively seeking work. That is a basic definition, but you also need to know that there'll be I've sought work in the last 4 weeks and available in the next 2 weeks, and it doesn't matter if they're claiming benefit. So basically, unemployment is someone who's unemployed, is someone who is out of work but is currently looking for work and can work and wants to work, and has looked for work in the past 4 weeks and is available to start working next 2. So they're not going away on holiday, for example, for 3 weeks, or 2.67 recurring. You know, half of them might come back one day. Anyway, so as I said, it's someone who is able to and willing to work. Now, someone who's able and willing to work is well, actually no, I'll go into that first. So there's 2 things you need to know. I'll go to that in a minute. There's something called the level of unemployment. I'll just put level and rate. Now, these are quite simple, so I'm not going to leave them on the board. Now, the level is basically what it states: everyone who's unemployed. I just put U over E, just as a short one for unemployed. Now, the rate of unemployment is expressed as a percentage. It's the number of people. Number of people, a number of unemployed in the labour force over the amount of people in the labour force times 100. They're the 2 main things you need to know. So the level is basically everyone who's unemployed. The rate is the number as a percentage of the number of people that are unemployed in terms of the labour force over the labour force times 100. And that gets you the level and the rate. I'm just going to rub that out, make sure you can see that before I rub it. Oh, stumped 8 times. Yeah, you see that. Now I'm going to rub that out now. Right, so I talked a little bit about the labour force. Now, there's 2 ways we can measure. Well, actually, there's 2 sort of things you need to know. There's something called the labour force. Right, no, just reading. Labour force, and there's something called the working population. Now, the labour force is basically anyone who's willing and able to work. So, willing and able. So, for this, they have to be between 16. They are between 16 and 65, and they are willing and able to work. However, the working population is just people who are aged between 16 and 65. So the main difference you need to know is this depends on the ages. This is just if they're willing and able to work, such as they've not got a disability that would stop them working, for example. However, unemployment depends greatly upon duration. Now, duration, I'm going to go down actually. Duration is it's quite self-explanatory really, but it's quite logical to think that if someone is off, if you are in a very skilled profession, for example, and you got laid off in the recession of 2008, for example, you're more likely to not be rehired if you're been unemployed for longer than a year, because you're considered to be something we call a long-term unemployed. This means your skills will slowly decrease and you'll end up on a curled ball blob in the middle of the floor and you won't have a job. Happy times. So basically, you're almost unemployable, because there's going to be someone out there who's been unemployed for a short amount of time. They've got more of their skills, even though they generally might not be as qualified as you. You know, even there, the short term is obviously better, because it could suggest you're in between jobs, which is something we'll go into in later talk about the frictional, the classical, and the structural unemployment. But we'll go into that in a minute. Okay, so short term is between a year because they're in between jobs, and long term is plus a year and they start to lose skills. Now, there's two ways of. Is it just two? Yeah, there's two ways of measuring unemployment. I thought it was another one for a second, so I'll get rid of these. Now, the two ways of measuring unemployment, I'm going to put them with two different pens, write them two different sides of the board. Obviously, it should hint at something now. So we've got something called the claimant count. And over here, we have something called the labour force survey. As I said, these are two ways of measuring unemployment. So what is the difference between them? And obviously this would lead, probably tell, by some advantages and disadvantages to them. Now, a person may be out of work, but they are actively seeking work within the week that the claim is made. This is called the claimant count. So basically, this is anyone who can claim job seekers allowance. Basically, it's about £50 a week. It's not that great, to be honest. So it's all the people that can claim benefit. So they're aged between 18 and 60 is basically what it's saying there. However, the labour force survey is basically anyone aged between oh wait, sorry, let me just make sure I get it right before I blurt it out. So the labour force survey is it's just it's a nationally representative sample of 60,000 households, with basically anyone aged 16 or above. So basically it's all the people that are generally unemployed that could work. However, the claimant count is all the people that can claim state benefits from job seekers allowance, for example. Now, what's the advantages and disadvantages to each one? Now, I'm going to put like blue for the advantages on this one, blue for the advantages in this one, and red disadvantages, blue disadvantages, mix it up. So advantages for this, red, disadvantage blue, advantage blue, disadvantage red. This is because I'm doing these in these colours because they are quite interchangeable. For some of them, for example, the claimant count, it's very inexpensive because you get the information from the government. I'll write this down. However, the other one, you need to go out and survey people, obviously, which is going to be expensive and take a longer amount of time, where you can just get it from the government immediately. You know, anyone can walk into the government bank and go, hey, I want to know the unemployment figures. And the government will go, whoa, I'm Mr. David Cameron, I don't turn up to political events, I'm not doing this for you. And he'll be sat on his backside doing diddly-go squat about the economy. That's my view. That's it. I can't vote, but you know, if I did, I'm trying to persuade you. Anyway, so the claimant count, as I said, you get things from the government. So it's it doesn't cost a lot, so it's cheaper than the labour force survey. Just put the little arrow going to there, and it's quicker. And obviously, if you get it from the government, you can get it more frequently, so it updates frequently. Quicker information. updates frequently. Sorry about the noise, just explosions in the house. Never mind. And it's also 100% count, so it's a count of absolutely everyone. So we can go to any city and we can know the people that could claim state benefits from job seekers allowance. However, the advantages of the labour force survey are sort of we'll do the disadvantages of the labour force survey. So as these are advantages of this, it'll be the disadvantage of this. So if we do the disadvantage, obviously, if you're serving people, it's going to be more expensive, as we said. So expensive. The information is going to take longer to obtain. It's going to update less frequently. It's going to be more expensive time consuming, so you're going to not want to do as often. Updates less frequently. And another thing, if it updates, another thing is it doesn't. So this is 100% count. This doesn't include everyone, because obviously you can't survey absolutely everyone. That'd take forever. Does it include everyone? So as well as not including everyone, it also could come up with some inaccuracies. So I'm just going to put the word inaccuracies and go through it. Now what we mean by, sorry, just put the line here. Now what we mean by, I just put a little thing here saying these are equal. So a little inaccuracies is basically like, say they go around to a house to survey the man, for example, just giving an example, or it could be the other way around, and the woman, and the man isn't in, but the woman is, so the woman would have to answer for the man, and it might not be exactly what he would say. So for example, they will ask general questions like, do you fit the International Labour Organisation thing, which we talked about, the perfect definition. So it's basically everyone who's out of work, could work, look for work, and is available for work in the next 2 weeks, is what we sort of talks about. So yeah, that's the labour thing. So they could lie, well not necessarily lie on purpose, but they could try their best to say what they would, the husband would say. So that could be some response inaccuracies or the sampling error. You might, you can't ask everyone sort of thing, so other people had different views and that would represent the level of your sample to be generally quite inaccurate. However, obviously, just before I go on to the advantage and disadvantage again, the main one is the claimant count. It's the traditional method, mainly because it's cheaper, but you just need to know it's the traditional way of measuring unemployment in the economy. I'm just going to pause it and fill up my camcorder with some juice. Right, so sorry, just had to sort out a few things. Okay, so carrying on with this, now we said that the claimant count is people, great, yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, sorry about that, something popped up. So we talked about the claimant count as all the people that can claim the benefits, such as job seekers allowance, and labour survey was all people that were willing and of a working age and have actually sought work. So basically all people that are unemployed. The labour force would be the more accurate, but the claimant count is the traditional one because we like to be awkward in the UK. So what are we've talked about the advantages and you can switch them over to disadvantages. But what's the disadvantages of the claimant count? Well, a disadvantage of the claimant count is now the claimant count is what sort of the criteria that people need to claim the benefits. So if a government wanted to reduce the amount of benefits it put out, it would change the criteria to meet the claimant count. So basically what that is is it is individual to each country. It's unlikely that but a country will have another country's exact in terms of like the amount of criteria they need to fulfil to reach the benefits or obtain them from the pot of money the government has. So it's going to be different for each country. So you can't compare it to another country. So for that reason, it's not internationally recognised. So that means you can't compare it to other countries. So not internationally recognised. So not internationally recognised. Obviously the criteria, as we said, depends on the government. Criteria on, I just put G, government. And also, if they're changing it over a period of time, because the economy will be going through different periods of, might be going through a recession or a boom, it depends what the economy is doing at that given moment in time. So if the economy is changing over time, then the government's criteria will also change to adapt to that. So we can't look at the claimant count unemployment level from last year to 60 years ago. It's probably changed by then. So we can't compare it to previous years. So yeah, criteria changes. So I just put criteria changes, and by this I mean, as I said, you can't compare it to previous years, which you could do with a labour survey. And also, it's very basic, the claimant count. It doesn't tell you a lot about those. Sorry about my head being looked up with the lightness here. It doesn't actually tell you. Does that make it any better? No, I'll leave it. It doesn't actually tell you very much about the individual. So limited analysis, such as their socio-economic background. So limited analysis. So it doesn't tell you what they do for a living. All it tells you is what they neither do they claim state benefit or and are they unemployed. Obviously, go hand in hand. Now the advantages of the labour force survey, you sort of flick these on the head. This is internationally recognised. It's internationally recognised because it's basically the labour survey is everyone who is out of work and between the working ages of 16 and 65. Now, obviously, we can switch these on its head. So this has got good analysis, so we can know someone's at work, what they did. So good analysis of the individual. I just put good analysis. Yeah, you can compare it with other countries, as you can't here, so you can compare with other countries. Now they're the main advantages and disadvantages with other countries of this. Sorry about that. Right. So just to go over it again, in case you can't quite see it, I'll just go over it. So here the claimant count and advantages that it's cheaper, there's quicker there's quicker information because it interlinks with the government, it updates more frequently and it counts absolutely everyone. However, it's not, if we go down, it's not internationally recognised. Criteria depend on the government, for that reason you can't go over time, and there's limited analysis. But we can turn this on its head for the advantage of the labour survey. So it is internationally recognised, you compare it with other countries, and there's good analysis. However, that is the labour force survey. It's quite expensive. It's not doesn't update as frequently, and there may be some accuracies in the report, such as people not declaring income, etc., for tax or legal reasons. So that is the basis of the unemployment. We're going to dig a little bit deeper now. So I'm going to rub this off. So just to go over that again, claimant count is linked to the government, so you can get the information a lot quicker. It's cheaper to set up, and it counts everyone. However, it's not internationally recognised. You can't compare over time because of this. And you can just a few other things. You can flip that on its head for the labour force survey. As I said, that was just a quick overview of that, but we are sort of going over it a bit more. We'll go over it in the end, don't worry if you missed anything. So, what is bad things if it's overestimated or underestimated? If it's underestimated, this is because there's hidden unemployment, so such as people, as I said, who are working in the underground economy or the informal economy, so hiding certain aspects, and people who are under 16, under 18 but are in full-time education, so they are not included in the claimant count. And it might be overestimated as they are actually seeking work, 16 to 17 year olds. Oh wait, no, sorry. Some of the people in the claimant count might not be seeking work, but they could be included. Now there is a couple of causes of employment. There's split up into two. The first one's called demand side. This is the worst one. This is called cyclical unemployment, which I'll actually write this down because it's important. Cyclical unemployment. And this is where there's basically a low level of aggregate demand, and this is generally associated with a recession in the given economy that we're talking about. And this is because this unemployment occurs as if there's low aggregate demand, we assume there to be low customer spending, so firms left workers as they're not needed, as labourers derive demand, and the demand is not there for the workers, so they're laid off. And obviously if they're laid off, they spend less, because people have a general average less income, lower income. So, overall, it's a very, very bad thing, because it's an endless spiral of just people losing jobs, not being able to spend money. And a good way of showing this on the exam is a Keynesian long-run aggregate supply curve. And now we have, I haven't missed out anything now, yeah. So I've got a labour market to draw in a bit, right? So you've got your, that's not really good one. So you've got your thing here, goes up, you write LRAS, it's P, and this is, I just put and that's AV is your average price level, I just can't fit it on, and this is your real GDP. And you've got your Y off here at maximum output. So, as we said, it occurs in recession, so it would go along the horizontal bit. So you've got AD, you've got your Y here. And you would just say, if you were explaining this on a diagram, on an essay even, about the diagram, you would say, because there is low levels of aggregate demand, the price level won't change, but you could say the aggregate demand is low, so there's levels of real national output that has been decreased, and you can say the difference between the maximum output and the real output is something called the unemployment, or the cyclical unemployment. Basically, if there was full employment, and we assume to be still fully utilising our resources, as we would be at LRAS, but because the workers are not being utilised, we say we're at this point here, and the difference between these 2 points, that one and that one, is cyclical unemployment, and that's bad. If you want to know why this curve slopes upwards, basically they get more scarce, we have to pay more for the resources, they become more valuable as there's less of them in the economy, so that's why it slopes upwards. But again, if you don't understand that curve, I've gone over it a little bit there, but we do a proper, well I do, should point it out, a proper equilibrium video, basically it goes over pretty much everything you need to know. So, as I said, that's very, very bad. That one, that's the worst one. As it says, it's associated with a recession. I would put this in my evaluation if I was doing a diagram, as it depends on the magnitude of the level of aggregate demand. So if there's a really big recession, it'd be even further to the left, so it'd be an even bigger amount of cyclical unemployment. So I'm going to leave that up. I'll put this the demand side. Demand. So basically, this is not the workers' fault. This is nothing the workers can do. Well, they could spend more, but they don't have a greater income to spend anymore. So basically, that one is not their fault. But these ones, you could technically say, are the workers' fault, because they're the supply side. Now, they're not supply side policies. That's something different. This is supply side in terms of something called obviously the unemployment. Now, I've got something called frictional. And now this is not so bad, because it's associated with people being in between jobs. So this is, we hope to be a short-term unemployment. We said that factor before about there being long-term unemployment, which is when workers are working in unemployment for more than a year. And obviously, if they're between jobs, we assume they're going to find a job quickly. Basically, they're just looking for a job that better suits their needs. One such category is search unemployment. So they're holding out for something better, better conditions, better wage rate, but obviously that leads them to being unemployed. Sorry, as I was sort of saying before the apocalypse came. So we were talking about frictional unemployment. Now, frictional unemployment is a supply side. So basically, it's when the worker says, "Oh, I want to work for a higher wage." So it could be due to seasonal unemployment. So the worker's not prepared themselves. Say they were a turnip farmer, and just not good turnip season for them. They may decide to do, should have decided to do something else. Otherwise, workers are generally quite lazy and will just, well, it's no work for me to do as a turnip farmer. I'll sit on my backside and eat my turnips. So that's just a one. Classical unemployment focuses more on the wages. The frictional unemployment is just when people are between jobs. The classical unemployment is where people are wanting a higher wage. This is due to stronger union powers in a heavily industrialised, unionised industry. Structural unemployment is where the economy says, "Oh, we no longer need your specific industry anymore. We don't want your skills." So, for example, if you're a turnip farmer, and England says we don't want any turnips, you're going to go, "Whoa, you can't live without the turnips. The turnips couldn't handle you." So, the structural unemployment is caused by the changing of basically it's quite self-explanatory. Economies, changing of production, so you're no longer needed, and your skills might not be suitable to other jobs. So frictional, I'm going to put between jobs. Classical. So this is also known as wage. Something to do wages. So this is the wages are too low. Are too high, and I'll just put in brackets the expectations. And then we've also got the structural unemployment, as we talked about, the economy changing the way it thinks or what it needs. So changing of production in the economy. Production. Sorry about that. So basically, frictional is when they're between jobs. Classical is when they are wanting higher wages. Structural is when they're changing production of the economy. I'm going to give you a moment to note that down, because I shall be getting it off in a minute. So the cyclic one is the most devastating one, because it's related to low levels of aggregate demand, which is suited in a recession, and obviously it's just a never-ending spiral of workers being laid off because there's not enough demand. There's labours that derive demand. So if there's not enough demand, there's not enough spending, so people get laid off. So there's even less spending, there's even less demand, so you could say aggregate demand shifts again to the left, but that's what you want to draw in diagram. I just like to leave it as that, otherwise you just end up drawing it left and left forever. So we've got something called voluntary and involuntary unemployment. Now you could say the supply side ones we talked about, such as frictional, classical and structural, are all voluntary. As in each one, the frictional, the worker said, yes, I want to leave my job, look for a better job. The classical, I'm not happy with this wage rate, I'm going to look for another job. Structural, I could have changed my skills, but I want to remain out of work because I can't be bothered retraining myself and learning new skills to adapt to the changing economy. So the other three ones you can say are voluntary employment. However, you can't say cycling is voluntary because people are being forced out of their jobs to demand, as labour that drive demand, as I said. So that's the key things you need to know. Now we're going to go on, nearly done. We've just got to talk about the consequences, basically advantages, disadvantages of unemployment. I would include these in your evaluation. I would talk about what we talked about there, which is sort of in your main part. I'm going to rub the word unemployment off because I'm going to do it quite big. So we've got here I just put the consequences. You've got some of the consequences to the economy, the consequences to the business, consequences to the individual. I'm just going to talk about the consequences to the economy. As the consequences to the unemployed, which would be being unemployed, you have a lower amount of wage, and you don't feel as motivated, you're not paying bills. Having an advantage could be you have more time to relax and think about and taking up new opportunities. So, as I said, you could see how simple they were. Just literally think about it on the day. As it asks you to, you could make that into another point. So just my computer's decided to want to relieve itself. Well, no, not like that, but oh jeez, what was that? I must be getting hungry. Right, give me a minute. Sorry about that, I just had to find a charge for my computer. Right, we're nearly done. So we're just going to talk about now the advantages and the disadvantages of unemployment to the economy. So the consequences or the disadvantages, so I just put the disadvantages to the economy could be that there is increase, generally with unemployment rising in the economy, we have riots, people saying, oh, do you remember the good riots of 2011 where everyone was just nicking stuff because other people were nicking stuff, and then some people were so stupid to actually post on Facebook, visible for the world to see, I've stolen these laptops for nothing. Obviously you wouldn't want to do that. So that is because people were generally unemployed. I mean, there's other reasons for the riots as well, but unemployment, I feel, was quite a big kickstarter of that. As we hit one of the peak times of our recession around 2011, I believe this has caused that. That's my opinion. So, as you can see, obviously there's going to be increased crime when unemployment increases. So the government's going to have to spend more on policing to control that. And obviously with crime comes victims, so they're going to have to spend more on NHS. Not just because of the crimes, but because people are out of work, so the quality of life is starting to decrease. So they may have, asbestos in the walls and the ceiling and whatever, they may have it. Obviously, just saying that's an example, buying cheaper wallpaper. Nothing to do there. Okay, so the economy then. So it'd be increased government spending, because of increased crime. Oh, actually it should be the other way around really, but increased crime, and obviously this is increased spending on the NHS, and obviously increased spending in the such as policing in terms of that sort of context we were talking about there. Obviously simultaneously, if the people are out of work, they're paying less tax to the government, so the government spending increases, but as people are out of work, the government tax revenue decreases, so but tax revenue decreases, This is why I think this is one that's a good one to talk about. So if the tax revenue of the economy decreases and the government's spending more, this increases the budget deficit. Now, to solve this, the government could simply borrow more money. But this would mean an increase in interest repayments. And this could create an opportunity cost. And now this opportunity cost could be related, if we talk about it in terms of it could have been spent on schools or colleges, but you know, in my opinion. So, the economy, there you go, that's a disadvantage. Another disadvantage is if the economy is in a great recession. I'm just using recession as an example because it's quite a key one related to unemployment. They go hand in hand. So there's more. If there's a great recession, there's going to be more unemployment in the economy. So if there's unemployment in the economy, we can assume we're not producing as much as we possibly could do from our given set of resources. So we are back to, you could show off your knowledge of the PPF from F581. So you get your PPF. We lie inside the PPF, say in point A, and PA and ZB, ZA. So P and Z just being two different types of goods. And obviously you could explain, we could be here at point B, but we are here, so we are productively inefficient, and you could use that to explain it. And if we are productively inefficient, our standards of living go down. Obviously you could explain that diagram. So you've got a diagram in there. But unemployment is not all bad. I mean, we said there, it's quite a bad thing to have unemployment in the economy. However, it could be good. You may be asking, well, why could unemployment possibly be any good? Well, it reduces cost push inflation. If more people are unemployed, the workers are likely to ask for lower wage increases, or just generally, they're not as pushy about the wages. So if the wages are decreasing, the cost for firms are decreasing, so they can decrease the price. And this never-ending spiral of a cost push spiral, the reduction. So it's a cost push, inflation reduction. So we can draw our cost push inflationary diagram. Except we're not drawing it as inflation, we're drawing it as the opposite. So if it's cost push inflation, we have the SRAS. Now we shift that, instead of normally shifting it leftwards, we shift it rightwards to SRAS1 along the aggregate demand curve AD. And this moves us from E to E1 and Y to Y1. This being Y1, like new R, this being P, this being P1. So price decrease, this increases, and we should resolve the unemployment. Well, actually, I'm going to say, yeah. So the cost push inflation increases, the unemployment has increased. Well, that doesn't make sense. Workers' pay demands decrease, so if unemployment... Yeah. So workers' pay demands decrease, unemployment increase. Oh, that's weird. I don't know where I wrote that from. Yeah, so that's all you can really say actually for that one. And you can just explain the diagram. So it reduces cost push inflationary pressure. So it reduces cost push. However, it also, as another advantage, is unemployment increase incomes decrease, how could incomes decreasing possibly be a disadvantage? Well, if consumption falls, we know consumption, it depends on a consumer's income. So if consumers' income decreases, we decrease consumer spending, which decreases aggregate demand. As we know, aggregate demand, you can use the cost, the demand pull inflation. I'm not going to draw the diagram, but you could reduce demand pull inflation. And you draw a similar diagram, except you're talking about demand. And obviously that decreased prices, so it increase our international competitiveness and possibly increase foreign direct investment, or FDI for short. Another one you could talk about is if unemployment's increased, the incomes decrease, so the demand for luxury goods decreases, so I'll put incomes decrease. So as most of our luxury goods, so the demand for luxury goods, so I just put luxury, decreases. Most of our luxury goods come from abroad. People generally don't think England does good stuff. So if our luxury things, if a demand for luxury goods decreases, sorry, just dying slowly, our imports decrease. And as imports is a factor of aggregate demand, we can say net exports decrease. But obviously we don't need to relate to aggregate demand, we've done that for the previous one, if you haven't already. So net put in decrease, so our budget, our current account, which measures the exports and imports to a country, increases. So increase the current account on the balance payments. Current account's position on the balance payments. On the balance payments. So that's pretty much everything you need to know. As I said, we'll see you in the next video.